Big 12 Conference has finally released its football schedule for the 2023 football season, and it looks like the Oklahoma Sooners have a pretty good path to a potential college football playoff appearance, and it's partially the SEC's fault. Well, why do you say that, Couz? Well, pull up a chair, sit back, and I'll explain. What is going on, college sports fans, fellow members of Mountaineer Nation, and Big 12 fans? Welcome to another edition of Couz's Corner. Pull up that chair or grab yourself a bar stool and let me serve you up this shot of top shelf college football content on tap. In this episode, we are talking Oklahoma Sooners and their schedule for the 2023 season and how I see a potential path to a CFP appearance for the Sooners in what it will be Brent Venables' second year at the helm for the program. Before I dive into the details, though, I ask that if you haven't yet, please subscribe to my channel here. I'm trying to get to 5,000 subs. Please hit that subscriber button. If you like Big 12 football content, especially West Virginia content, this is the channel for you. Please hit the thumbs up button for me if you don't mind. Heck, hit the thumbs down button if you think this episode sucks. That's okay, too. Please share it out with your college sports-loving friends. And please drop a comment below and let me know what you think about this schedule for the Sooners in 2023. Now, let's dive in. I'm going to share the Sooners schedule with you as we talk about it. I know my last several videos I've been showing graphics to you guys because it's just easier to explain a lot of this stuff. If you guys can look at it with me. I hope you guys like the graphics. If you don't, or even if you do, let me know in the comments. I want to get your opinion on this. As you see on the screen, if you can see it, Oklahoma obviously starts the season September 2nd with a home game against Arkansas State Red Wolves, an FBS Group of 5 team. September 9th, another home game against the SMU Mustangs out of the American Conference. And then their third and final non-conference game is against Tulsa. Now, that game is on the road, but nonetheless, they start the season with 3 non-Power 5 opponents. So, very big advantage there. They should start the season 3-0. Game 4, their first Big 12 game, and it just so happens they are playing one of the newcomers to the league, the Cincinnati Bearcats. Now, they have to travel to Cincinnati, but on paper, Oklahoma should be favored and potentially even favored big in this game. So, I'm putting that down as a probable win for the Sooners. Game 5, their first home conference game, it's against the Iowa State Cyclones. Now, I'm not sure how good Iowa State's going to be this year, but on paper, the Sooners should be favored in this game as well. It's not until Game 6, when they play the Red River rivalry game against Texas, that they have a likely loss, or at least a probable loss, or a high probability of losing the game on their schedule. Because we all know Texas is expected by many to be the best team in the league this year and be the favorite to win the Big 12. So that game, I'm going to chalk up a loss for Oklahoma in this game, but I think it's their first loss of the year. Then they get their bye week in week 7, perfect timing, right in the middle of the season. That's when teams love to have their bye. Then they go into the second half of the season, starting off again with one of the newcomers in UCF. They welcome UCF to Norman. There again should be a win. Then they travel to Kansas the following week. Should be a win. They travel to Stillwater on November 4th to play the Oklahoma State Cowboys in what could be the final game of the Bedlam series, and in what I expect will likely be yet another win for the Sooners because Oklahoma has pretty much dominated that series for the most part. I expect them to win it again in 2023. November 11th, they welcome West Virginia in Norman. I also, even though West Virginia is my team, I'm not expecting West Virginia to beat Oklahoma in 2023. So there again, on paper, it should be another win for the Sooners. And they close out the year with BYU on the road in Provo and TCU at home. Now, I don't know how good TCU is going to be. They are losing a lot of guys. They're going to lose Max Duggan. They're losing Quentin Johnston. I think they're losing Kendra Miller. I'm not sure 100% certainty. If those of you who know, let me know in the comment section. Does Kendra Miller have another year of eligibility or not? But nonetheless, TCU will probably take at least a minor step back in 2023. I don't expect them to once again make the college football playoff in 2023, but they still could be a good team. So that could be a tough game for the Sooners. But there again, on paper, they should be favored in both of those final 2 games. So Oklahoma's on paper, Oklahoma will probably be favored in every game but maybe one on their schedule in the 2023 season. So they could it's very feasible that they could go 11-1, and win the Big 12, which would very, very likely get them into a college football playoff. Now, obviously, it's going to depend on what goes on around them. But Oklahoma could, and heck, they could even go undefeated, go 12-0 if they can beat Texas in the Red River rivalry, which they very well could. That game's always competitive, regardless of how good the teams are. So it's very, very feasible that Oklahoma goes 12-0 or 11-1 and gets into the college football playoff. And now, why do you say that the SEC is at fault? Well, here's why. And I'm going to share an article with you, part of this explanation as well. But that week 3 game that I mentioned against Tulsa, that was originally supposed to be against Georgia. Georgia was supposed to travel to Norman to take on the Sooners as part of a home-and-home series. The Sooners were supposed to return to Georgia in 2031 to face the Bulldogs as part of, like I said, a home-and-home. But because Oklahoma is joining the SEC very soon, the SEC decided they made Georgia cancel that game. Now, I'm going to share with you now the article where this information comes from. This was on Fan Nation, on Dogs Daily, which is part of the Sports Illustrated family and that covers the Georgia Bulldogs. But this article goes all the way back to September the 14th of 22. I'm going to kind of start down here in the middle of the article, but it says, currently Texas and OU will not join the SEC until 2025, which is the end of the Big 12's current TV deal. However, if the rumors are true, both schools, along with the help of the SEC and ESPN, could see the two programs join earlier than expected. A report by ESPN's Pete Thamel on Wednesday afternoon indicates that the Southeastern Conference is already planning for its newest member's arrival. According to his sources, Thamel says that the SEC has directed both Georgia and Tennessee to cancel their upcoming games with Oklahoma University. Here's Thamel's tweet about that. It says, the SEC has directed Georgia and Tennessee to not play their home-and-home non-conference series against Oklahoma. The Bulldogs had OU scheduled in 23 and 31. The Vols' 2020 game in Norman was canceled amid COVID and was expected to be made up down the line. The latest directive is being carried out to clear the way for the rescheduling of the conference's future once the SEC expands from its current 14-team format to a 16-team format. And here's an update to the article. The conference has confirmed the reports, though they are holding true to the 2025 start date, which, probably from a legal perspective, they have to do until something is officially announced. Now, going down here, here's the actual statement from the SEC about this cancellation. It says, and I quote, the Southeastern Conference has directed the University of Georgia and the University of Tennessee to postpone scheduled football games versus Oklahoma because the transition of Oklahoma into the SEC will not allow for the involved institutions to fulfill their respective contractual non-conference home and home appearance obligations. Phew, I'm out of breath after reading that. They need to put some commas in there somewhere, man. Good Lord. Anyway, it keeps going. Because the second non-conference game in each of the Georgia-Oklahoma and Tennessee-Oklahoma series is scheduled to take place after Oklahoma joins the SEC in 2025, the conference is directing the postponement of the Georgia at Oklahoma game in 2023 and the Oklahoma at Tennessee game in 2024 until such time that those matchups become part of the conference rotation of games in future years, end quote. So now, what it looks like to me is since Georgia had to cancel or postpone the game against Oklahoma at Oklahoma, Oklahoma had to find somebody to play that third week of the season. And, this happened so late. I mean, these schedules are made years in advance. Since it happened so late, I'm sure they probably weren't able to find another Power 5 team to play. So they had to go out and get somebody to play, and they were able to get Tulsa. Now, I'm sure Tulsa probably said, look, guys, we're helping you out here. Throw us a bone by playing the game here in Tulsa, giving our fans something to get excited about. And I guess Oklahoma obliged, and maybe they had to. They probably didn't have a choice. So Oklahoma is traveling to Tulsa for that week 3 game. Now, it is an away game, but they don't have to leave the state of Oklahoma, so it's not that bad. But that being said, that's why I said it's potentially, or partially at least, the SEC's fault that Oklahoma has this schedule they have. But it's very, very clear path here that Oklahoma could have to a CFP appearance. So that being said, I want to hear your thoughts. What do you think about this Oklahoma schedule? I think it lines up really well. Potentially the easiest schedule in all the conference, to be honest with you, going into the year, especially when you look at the non-conference slate. I think they're the only Big 12 team that doesn't have a Power 5 opponent on their schedule for the upcoming season. So that definitely will make it much easier schedule to navigate, hopefully, for them. And then they also have to play the three of the four newcomers. They don't have to play Kansas State, who's expected to potentially compete for a conference title again, in my opinion. They don't have to play Baylor, and they don't have to play Texas Tech, two other teams that could potentially beat them. So they replaced them with UCF, BYU, and Cincinnati, who they should, on paper at least, be favored against, especially Cincinnati and UCF, who are making the transition from a group of 5 to a Power 5, which will probably take some time. The transition may be a little easier for BYU, going from an independent who, they've been playing a lot of Power 5 teams anyway. The transition may not be as tough for them, but it probably will be for the American Conference schools. I want to hear your thoughts, especially if you're a Sooner fan out there watching this. I want to hear your thoughts on this. Do you think the Sooners have a legit chance to make the CFP in 2023 in what will be Brent Venables' second year at the helm, which will be a very remarkable feat for him? If you want to support this channel here financially, there's a couple different ways you can do it. You can check out my merch store. Links at the top of my description box, or you can check out the photos below the description box. Click on any photo. It gets you into my merch store. Make your purchase there. I've got several designs to choose from, several items to choose from. You can become a member of Couz's Corner by hitting the join button right below. You can check out the Fanatics link in the description box as well. Make a purchase there. The link will take you to the custom NIL jerseys for West Virginia. If you're not a fan of West Virginia or you don't want to buy a jersey, all you've got to do is use that link to get to the site. You search for whatever it is you want to purchase. I'll still get a small commission from the sale, even if you don't purchase the jersey. That's just to get you in the site. Last but not least, you can support me for free in 4 ways: by liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. All of that helps out my channel. All of it helps out the YouTube algorithm, gets my channel promoted to more people. With that being said, I really appreciate you tuning into this video and for your support. Until the next episode, Q Country Roads.